let's look to the region now that we want to be on everyone's lips. It is, of course, the Northeast. And who better than the Dynamo team in charge of our areas of special interest? So if I can just introduce our next panel, we will have, hopefully online, Phil Jackman. Are you there, Phil? He leads our cluster looking into cybersecurity. Laura Kemp. Oh, we're all appearing. Wonderful, wonderful. Laura Kemp, who looks after our Service Delivery Centres cluster, and the leader of our Digital Construction and FinTech cluster, Dunn, is there as well. Wonderful. And making her second appearance at the conference, Emma Whitenstall, our Health Tech cluster lead, is on the way. There she is. Brilliant. Wonderful. I'm just going to swipe this up. Now, if anybody has been having thoughts during all of this, of course, still keep going with your socials and hashtag Dynamo21. We want to see all of that developing on there. There have been quite a few moments today, I'm going to be honest, where I've been quite startled by the figures which have been announced. One element was mentioned in the last panel chat that we had. 1 in 5 jobs advertised are tech and digital. Does this fit with what's been happening in the pandemic, or do you think that's developed and it's only going to develop more? Emma?
Good question. I mean, I think there's always been a huge need for tech jobs in the region, and it's something that we talk time and time again to all the SMEs and larger businesses actually that we work with, is how to fill those businesses. And yeah, I was in that last session, and I thought the conversation around attracting the diversity of applicants actually was the most important kind of key takeaway that I took from that, and just ensuring that recruitment process is kind of very open and fair and is attracting applications from the breadth of society. So we're reflecting that. I mean, that links in nicely to the lovely panel discussion that Faria led earlier as well. So I'm not sure that particularly answers your question, whether it's pandemic related, but it's certainly a hot topic on everybody's lips at the moment, hence the Talent Engine project.
Yeah, and let's look at the theme of today, actually, how tech leads the way in a challenging world. Tech's competitors in this, what are they, or who are they, or who needs to be standing alongside tech to kind of push it all forward? Phil?
I think we must never lose sight that tech is a people industry. It's a human industry, and I'm sure that the conversation that Dawn had earlier on in a panel session really led to that conclusion, that it's people that create technology. It's man that lifted the first flint, as it were, and it's, we need to think about that. And if you ever watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, the man switched the computer off in the end. We won, and we need to just bear that in mind. So I think what people need to do, just thinking back to the last question, Charlie, was that I think all jobs are technical jobs now. All jobs have an element of tech, and we all need to absorb that, work with it, help those who are in terms with that, and understand the different levels that we have. So humanity must prevail, and always will, because only humans can be creative.
Okay, I think I know how you voted then in that panel. Pete Dakin's going to be absolutely delighted. Dunn, you kind of gave us a snippet of the idea of how you voted as well. So, knowing what you know and the people that you were in contact with, do you think there are certain sectors or certain elements that we need to have alongside tech for it to move forward, so we can grow this industry in the Northeast and attract this diverse talent?
Absolutely, Charlie. And I think one of the things that's come out of today's conference is the depth and breadth of those jobs that are available in tech. So we talk about
13,000 job titles, I think somebody mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think Don mentioned that in the last session. But I think it's making people aware that this is it's not a huge leap. Everybody's using technology now because they're paying for things on their phones. We've seen that acceleration in the payments industry over the current crisis. But they're talking to their friends on technology. They are making everyday transactions. We're all using tech. And if we don't think we've got a tech job, then we're interacting in our social lives, even hospitality. We're pre-booking tables, we're paying in advance. And so don't think anybody should be wary of thinking just because I'm a traffic warden, I can't work in tech. And I'm citing that example because one traffic warden, as he was giving me a ticket, actually started having that conversation. Saying, what am I going to do? What's going to happen to the likes of me? And we talked about number plate recognition in car parks and fines and, you know, all the nastiness that entails. But it's literally every job has an element of technology in it. So I think that whilst it might be, the speed of change is perhaps sometimes a little bit breathtaking. It's very optimistic what that change can bring for people if we approach it in the right way.
Oh, we're being very honest here. I hope the parking ticket's gone okay.
It was ages ago. It was ages ago.
Always is. As you say that, I mean, tech's expanded into all areas of people's lives now, and people who are even not viewing it as having expanded in there, they you know, they've had to adopt it in some way. But how do we manage growth following the past sort of 15 months? Laura?
Oh, how do we manage it? Wow, there's a question. I think we embrace it. You know, I completely agree with what everybody else has said. There's not a role that's not touched by tech, and we have to. I really enjoyed Dawn's debate session, and I was kind of almost switching sides throughout. I'm definitely on the people side, but really good cases because tech is the tool, you know, and we need them both. We need brilliant people and we need brilliant technology, and we just have to embrace them both. And I think make sure that we look after the people and that really has been the message for me today. You know, the skills sessions, the EDI, the hybrid working, it all comes down to how we create the right culture and look after our people so that they can put the tech to best use so that we can get the best results from it.
One challenge as well that a number of companies have pointed to is this changing workplace, and you've got so many people ditching the office for home as their working environment. How do you keep data secure in that type of world, Phil?
Right. Okay. Well, I think first of all, you ask people who really understand this problem. I think this is a fundamental issue you're touching on, Charlie, because now the borders of your business are completely dispersed. If you were in a shop, it used to be like that. Now it's right across the globe. So you need to be conscious of what you're doing. You need to talk to people who understand the issues around distributed computing, cloud, et cetera, and take their advice. Don't think it's something you'll get away with, which I think a lot of businesses do today. So take it seriously. For me, data loss, cybersecurity is an existential threat. Well, I would say that, wouldn't I? But it's something that businesses should really be kept up at night thinking about how they're going to manage that. So my advice is think about what you're doing, get some advice, but follow things like the programs that the NCSC are putting out, which make it much easier for you to get on board with these sort of things. Take it seriously.
Yeah, the other side of that, of course, is the hybrid working space. There was a really interesting panel discussion earlier where I was finding out about, you know, potentially moving to cabins and work booths and how we can transform the way our cities are going to look. Do we think that this is to stay? Do we think that this is where we should be investing? Okay, I'm going to head to Dawn there, immediately shook her head. Go ahead, what do you reckon?
I think hybrid, yes, but I think the trouble is with hybrid, to make it work effectively, I think it has to be managed. So if you go in to work to have conversations or collaboration with your colleagues, and you go in on one day when everybody's not there, you're just going to feel pretty lonely and isolated and you know, a bit discombobulated. So once you start managing something like that, you almost lose the flexibility that it's promoting in the first place. And I read this morning some headlines about making it law, you know, that people can work from home. And don't get me wrong, I think there are lots and lots of benefits from this, but I think that is only the beginning. If we try and fit the world that we have now and put it into a new model, I don't think it'll change. I think you have to change it from the bottom up. And I do think that the way that we judge people's productivity, how we allocate holiday, I mean, excuse me, kind of very techy companies have been offering unlimited holiday for a while as a perk. That may be a way forward, because actually I put in a comment earlier, and it was only half joking, that if you are working from a beach or working from abroad when you can travel, do you take that as holiday? Because actually it kind of doesn't count anymore, does it? I think the whole thing needs to be readdressed, and we won't know how to address it until we start edging forward and hopefully coming out of some kind of restrictive lockdown that we have now.
Laura, from your area with the service centres, I mean, do you think we could be heading back? Is there a percentage in your mind where you feel certain companies are going to be office based and they'll still be, reinvigorating our city centres? Or is it now, we'll spend a fortune at B&Q because that's where we're going to live?
I think, it's a really interesting point. We're definitely going to see a curve, where people sort of go all in with hybrid, and it probably will settle down at some point. And those that come through it successfully will be those that take the right approach, that think it through, that put the right policies in place. And, to Dawn's point, you don't want to overmanage it because it takes away the flexibility. But there absolutely have to be some fundamental principles in place that guide people about the right way to work. And businesses do need to change their approach, and they need to manage outputs rather than inputs. And the contact centre industry is one that is going to find that really difficult. Have to be online at a particular time of day. If they can do it, then I see the reason that other businesses can't.
Phil, you were wanting to jump in there.
Yeah, sorry, in a minute, but I think the problem is that we concentrate on the transactional nature of work, whereas work has transactional and social aspects. So the transactional you can do anywhere. The social, you need to be sociable, and it requires a new set of leadership skills, I think, to maintain that social contact. That's fine, but social thing you need to focus on. Sorry.
That's completely true, Emma, isn't it? And especially with the health tech area.
Yeah, just before I go on to that, I had a really interesting conversation in the networking, brilliant format, by the way, being thrown in for 3 minutes with a total stranger. But she was that sounded wrong.
Be careful how you phrase it.
Missing from their office is that whole going in and collaborating, just to Dawn's point, actually, about that brainstorming session. That's the bit that everyone's missing. And actually, the only bit that they're now going to ask people to do is to go in on certain days for that type of activity, and the rest they can work wherever they want. And I just thought, and to Phil's point, it's the social thing, it's the going in. As much as you might want to try and have those sessions over Mural or whatever the other online tools might be that people use, it's not the same. It's not the same as kind of throwing some Post-its on a wall and then going off for a coffee break and having those chats. And that's where it all happens.
We need work friends. You used to have work friends.
I just need friends.
Where work friends gone? Anyway, you've never had friends, Phil.
I work in cyber, for goodness sake.
Because you've built a cyber wall around yourself.
I think I was listening to, I'm not sure if we've lost Emma's video there, but we can hear the sound. I was listening to Tombola earlier, and because of the site they have in Sunderland, they've been able to take over the bonded warehouse. And they've got their in-house chef, they've got their cafe going, they've got all of that. And it just seems that there are so many companies which can operate in different ways because of their geographical location. And I'd imagined, at this conference last year, thinking, right, this is it. This is our opportunity. We've reached the cliff edge now for the Northeast. We can all jump off because geography doesn't matter anymore. It just doesn't. Everybody's going to be listening to us because we are the Northeast now, and we could be anywhere. But people drag their heels. And when we look for funding and investment and infrastructure, is there still this big challenge in getting heard here in the Northeast, do you think? Geographically, does it still matter? Dawn?
Somebody said in Maria's panel today, it was a woman called Annie, I can't remember, it's Annie Topping.
Yes.
He said, it can be a small voice, it can be an important voice. And I think that we are going to see a definite upsurge in activity in the regions. And I just think it's making sure, and we are all responsible for making sure that we stand toe to toe with other cities and other regions. And it it's very difficult to find where we're going to find our point of differentiation, because we could say we've got a fantastic lifestyle, we've got coast, we've got cities. But somebody the other day, they were in a conference in Leeds, and this person from Leeds was saying, where else can you find a medium-sized city where you can get to X, Y, and Z? And they were going like, oh, that's what we've been saying in the Northeast as well. So you can have all these things, but you also need to have great jobs and really good opportunities. And if we can build those through that cluster economics, through finding areas of speciality that we can build on and draw people in. You can't make people come, but if you have a really exciting proposition, they will come. We're not out of the game. We can really take advantage of this.
Marilena Amberles has just said we need good internet connectivity across the whole of the Northeast. I don't have it.
Infrastructure.
Yeah. Would anybody like to comment over the next year or so? Phil?
Yeah, if you don't mind, because this is a passion of mine. That's what I used to do when I was at Durham. We led on Digital Durham. I think there was a huge work going on in the urban areas, but that's still going to expose the rural areas. And what I think people need to do is to activate their communities. They need pitchforks and torches, and they need to go and get together and force these organizations not force them, to explain to them, to demand that they get better services. The communities need to come together in order to get this problem solved, because every time it's solved in the city, it gets more and more expensive to solve in the country. So we need to
explain that.
All come together. Yeah, because if you're going to make an investment, you make an investment, and it costs X to do the whole lot. If you spend Y on the urban area, then what's left becomes more expensive, until you're left with half a dozen properties which are just prohibitively cost. So you need to think about this in the round. There was an interesting session earlier on with Aspire about this very thing, and I think it's something that Dawn is on and trying to think about infrastructure as another cluster.
If you don't have a pitchfork, or if you're feeling slightly nervous about moving it around, what other options are there? I mean,
there are no other options, Charlie.
Got to go low tech.
What I'm suggesting is that you make yourselves, you use every opportunity to raise the issue of poor broadband in your area with your councillor, with any civic leaders. Any opportunity that you get, just raise that and talk to your friends about it and get them together, because it's demand that will get companies to spend the money. If they believe the demand's there, they will spend the money.
Saying Darren brought 1 fibre out to the rural sticks of Teesdale. He says thank you. There you go.
I rest my case.
Now, inward investment as well. Andrew Wilson's pointed to this, some great inward investment successes in the contact centre industry recently. You know all about this, Laura, of course. Very sure at North Tyneside, Ocado at Sunderland, shows the power of building and support. Like more then about the clusters and your plans, particularly with this investment that Charlie Holt was talking about earlier. Could we start with, let's go to health actually, because that's where we started the day. So Emma, what are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, as I mentioned in the opening panel, which seems a long time ago now, doesn't it? We've spent the last 12 months actually building the cluster from the ground up. You know, there wasn't a cluster before, and now we've engaged with 40 SMEs across the region and building that kind of critical mass that's needed, engaging with all sorts of different partners who, you know, we're not the experts in everything, and so we bring in different partners and work with them to ensure that we're delivering the right kind of activity. So I think the next 12 months is really focusing on zoning in on those real kind of market opportunities that we can identify for the SMEs that are in our cluster. So, you know, engaging with the integrated care system across the Northeast and North Cumbria to work with the NHS trusts and really hearing from the clinicians what the need is and then what the tech solution can be, because it's got to be that way around. It can't be a tech solution without the need there in the first place. So that's where we want to be going, is actually trying to get some good news stories out and be shouting about those.
Yeah. Do you think now is the time because of the pandemic? I mean, just listening to Dr. Murray Ellender before talk about e-consult, that probably wouldn't have had the growth that it's had if it wasn't for this crisis.
No, definitely not. And it's all, yeah, as you're totally right. It's just all escalated because of the pandemic, which is a brilliant thing, but also with a kind of word of caution in the background. as Rachel mentioned in that opening panel, you know, we've got to make sure that things are being done right, as much as kind of getting it all out there. But yes, it's been a huge opportunity, obviously, and one on the side of tech leads the way, I think there, Dawn.
We'll not continue with that. We can do that offline.
We're codependent.
Laura, I mean, we're hearing there about those contact centres, and I mean, NHS BSA have been winning awards, the teams there, right, left and centre, because of what they've achieved for the whole of Britain, basically. What do you see coming? Because there are still more challenges on the horizon, obviously, with the pandemic and the various variants.
Yeah, I think the NHS BSA are a fantastic example of what the Northeast can achieve, and it's a great example of both good people and good technology. You know, the services that they've stood up, in some cases in a matter of hours, and they wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for the people and the determination that they had. Or for the technology that underpins the way that we're actually serving customers, and they've just got some fantastic examples within there of the ways that they're using technology to approach things differently, but also the actual people that they've got in their teams. I think Dan, who was in the audience in the session earlier, I'm sure he told me they have 27 varieties of customer advisor. So they deliver so many different services. Each advisor has to be trained on 3 or 4 so that they can shift people around depending on demand. And that could be that if a news story goes out, then suddenly people call a particular line. You know, if there's an accident, it's just something happens, it can direct people to, and so the staff have to be able to flex, and it just, you know, managing that is just an absolute minefield. And I think that so many businesses could learn a lot from the NHS BSA, not just contact centres.
And it also shows there how valuable a diverse workforce is and what it can be. I mean, they're customer facing, so they need to represent both sides. Be rolled out to all of the other contact centres.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in terms of diverse workforces, there was also a session earlier today, which unfortunately I couldn't make it to because I was chairing a session at the same time. But from Ubisoft was telling the Ubisoft story about their centre in Newcastle. From contact centre to customer service centre of excellence. They have bilingual advisors, and they really create a community. You know, they're not just here to answer calls and solve problems. They're actually building something with their players that makes them keep coming back to Ubisoft, and that's really special. And that again is down to a combination of the technology and the people.
The technology and the people, Phil.
Yeah, technology.
Same.
A lot of sitting on the fence. I'm just thinking for you, cybersecurity obviously has just exploded in the sense of, or it should be, as your point of view, that businesses should have this, you know, front and center with what they're planning to do over the next period of time. What do you see on the horizon then?
Yeah, I think we've got some really exciting news that has literally just happened, in that a new organisation, UKC3, the UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration, has just been created, which brings all of the UK cyber clusters together under one banner. The Cyber North is dead centre of that, is very much a part of that organisation. And I think we're going to see UK PLC cybersecurity developing and position the UK as a leader in global cybersecurity.
Is there any concerns there about sharing information?
Yeah, the forms you have to fill in before you get the corralling the market, developing skills, etc., etc. But it's really exciting to go forward.
Right, great. And Dawn, I mean, the amount of money that Charlie talked about earlier, that's been a real success getting from the North of Tyne Mayor's Fund over the next 3 years. What are the plans for your cluster?
Well, I'm hoping that we can make a virtual hub, Charlie, to do some of that interaction that we were talking about outside of region as well as inside of region. I've also realised while Phil's talking, I've actually got my internet password visible on the wall behind me, so I'll just do that. Just shows you, doesn't it, how to be vigilant at all times. But that money is going to go into developing the clusters that we've already established, and also creating some more clusters. One of the things that we've been talking about, as Phil mentioned earlier, is around infrastructure. That is so important. Another one will be addressing talent. Kate Carlson talked about talent engine earlier, and diversity in the sector as well. So it's addressing diversity and recruitment. I don't think we'll ever be done with the talent issue, ever. The skills gap is always going to remain, and it probably should, because if it ever closes, there's danger. But as things are moving, you just have to run faster to keep still, don't you? And we're managing.
We're doing very, very well. Dynamo is having a real success. And I think just the list of hearing, and Phil just mentioning about more collaboration there, it does seem to be the way forward. Thank you so much. What a brilliant day. Great to hear from you. And for anybody wanting to get in touch with the Dynamo team as well, that's always open, isn't it? It's always an open door to talk to the various clusters. Yeah? So
absolutely. Yeah, please.
Brilliant. At Dynamo Northeast is the account that you need to get in touch with. Thank you to Phil, to Laura, to Dawn, to Emma, not only for their insights, but for showing us their passwords as well. And the world behind the scenes. A special mention today has to go to Claire Nicholson as well, who's been extremely busy behind the scenes here for grafting on what's become a jam-packed event calendar. I think we had more than 70 speakers today at this conference. And we proved last year that a virtual conference could more than fill the space left behind what we'd come to expect from these events. And I'm sure you'll agree that the speakers, the breakout sessions, the panelists, the speed networking, have all done it again. Fantastic analysis, a fantastic showcase of what this transformative industry can do in our region for the UK and beyond. So if you're thinking, I was in that panel and I've missed something else, like Laura there, all of them, it's all going to be online. All the panels, all the talks, all the sessions have been recorded, and they're going to be available next week, and they'll be shared via the Dynamo socials as well. Thanks once again to all our speakers, to everyone who's contributed today, and a huge thank you to Sage. Without our sponsors, this couldn't really happen without the membership, and our headline partners, Sage, to Red Hat, Tombola, to the University of Sunderland as well, all our session partners. And finally, most importantly, thanks to you for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. I can see a glimmer of sunshine is still here, and that the rain has been held off. So fingers crossed we can get out there and join in. Thank you. Enjoy Dynamo 21. And oh, they've already started on the bubbly. Late to that party. Cheers, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks, Charlie. Bye.
Bye now, Charlie.